Hey guys, tonight we slip off our socks, fluff those pillows, and do something you've probably never tried before. Fall asleep not as you, exactly, but as an ancient Mesopotamian, that curious, clay-tile sleeper with the wildest bedtime stories east of the Mediterranean. The year is somewhere around 2000 BCE. The air outside is thick with the smell of wet earth and onions. Frankincense curls through a reed window, and the steady burble of the Euphrates spins on slow repeat. You're lying on a woven mat, eyes flickering, as somewhere nearby the neighbor's goats are arguing with the frogs about who screeches loudest at night. The city walls of your yes, that your eyes in the moonlight, and your brain, fired by heat and barley beer, just can't help but drift off. Tonight, your dreams might not just be dreams. They could shake thrones, launch armies, or get a shepherd promoted to scribe if anyone believes you. Here's your first reality check. If you flub a really important omen dream tonight, your head might roll. Seriously, trying to nap with those kind of stakes is, well, dicey. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and your local time. I love picturing us all time traveling together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Already, your mind tugs at the frazzled edge of wakefulness. You wish you'd finished helping your dad stitch that new reed mat, but let's be honest, reeds itch like 1,000 tiny demon claws, and helping is code for watching. You wiggle your toes against the clay floor. You can almost taste the metallic tang of river dust in the air. Mothers are already whispering bedtime curses against evil spirits. Somewhere, a priest is climbing a ziggurat staircase, muttering prayers meant to ward off something worse than whatever lurks under your bed. Funny thing, historians still argue whether everyday people took dreams quite this seriously, or if that's just the impression you get from official clay tablets. But either way, you're living in times when dreams aren't mere late-night entertainment. Kings, farmers, even the village dog catcher, he met a crocodile last week, and honestly, who can sleep after that? Believe dreams are messages. Sometimes, you get the celestial equivalent of a note in your lunchbox. Hey, if you see 3 white sheep on the way to the river, dodge left. Or you get a fever dream where your teeth turn to date pits, and a goddess spits honey in your ear. Most folks hope for something they can actually use, like, does the market price for barley go up or down tomorrow? Those cuneiform receipts don't write themselves. As you stare at the night sky, patches of blackness swimming with silver, they called the breath of the gods, you can't help but feel watch, not in a creepy Netflix stalker way, but in a grand, cosmic bureaucracy sense. Between Nomna the moon god and Inanna goddess of, let's see, just about everything, love, war, and occasionally lightning regret, you never really dream alone in Mesopotamia. Weirdest part, dreams have official interpreters, real, paid adults whose jobs are to nap at the temple, no joke, and then explain what you screamed into your pillow at 2 in the morning. Sometimes you think you'd rather be the beer brewer's apprentice. Fewer ghost stories, more free samples. But then again, those dream interpreters get to whisper secrets nobody else hears, and isn't that worth a little risk? Out in the distance, there's the low rumble of drums. You catch glimpses of firelight bouncing off mud brick towers. Maybe someone's being initiated tonight, locked in a ritual sleep, so that a god or demon, historians still argue, which is more likely. Are you sensing a pattern? Can hand over a vision? Or maybe just serve up a terrifying epic about a monster with 100 elbows. Your eyelids sag at that thought. No blue light from smartphones, but plenty of fireflies blink their own Morse code overhead. Even the air feels drowsy, heavy with the weight of stories. As you sink deeper into the mat, the world fades to pulsing echoes, a city drowning in its own legends and the secrets people spill only in sleep. A flutter of wind carries the scent of roasted lentils and burnt offerings, watched by neighbors who may or may not think your dreams are worth the risk of waking up tomorrow. You listen to the gentle snores and quiet shuffling from inside a Sumerian home, the heart of early Mesopotamia's oldest cities. The walls are cool and smooth under your palm's mud brick, patched so many times that each sun-bleached fingertip seems to carry a different family rumor. At this hour, everything feels hushed, but not just because of exhaustion from a day spent hauling barley and arguing over goat prices. Here, in the still darkness, there's a sense that sleep isn't just a biological glitch, but a bridge to something bigger. Tonight, your hosts, let's call them Iresh and Lull, have a set of secrets about slumber that would make even a modern sleep scientist take out a notepad. Iresh is already curled beneath a woven wool blanket, having mumbled a lilting lullaby to the house's battered clay idol. Lull, meanwhile, stirs the last embers in the hearth, watching the flames dance like tiny spirits. His gaze flicks to the corner, where a battered reed mat holds a small lumper child still resisting the kingdom of dreams, trading cheeky glances with an illicitly kept kitten. You settle in beside them, aware now that in Sumerian homes, bedtime comes with rituals, both practical and peculiar. The family recites a quiet prayer to Utu, the sun god, begging for relief from illness, for a good harvest, and most definitely for dreams free from meddling demons. Iresh dabs a bitter-smelling oil behind her ears, a homemade potion rumored to keep nightmares away. No sleepy tea here, but if she could, she'd probably market it as guaranteed dream guardian now with extra onion extract. It's not only the gods and the oils that shape sleep. Some Sumerians, the particularly anxious ones, tuck tiny carved amulets under their pillows, lions, fishes, or ironically little demons themselves, because fighting fire with fire was apparently all the Mesopotamian rage. Ask anyone, and they'll tell you the same. Sleep is vulnerable time. It's when your soul wanders, drifting out through your nostrils, which, let's be honest, is not the most dignified image to bargain with whatever forces are out there in the star-studded gloom. If you're lucky, your soul comes back before dawn with a useful story. If not, you wake up in a cold sweat, blaming the neighbors, the gods, or maybe last night's lentil stew. A mainstream historical fact. Sumerian cuneiform tablets record dozens, if not hundreds, of prayers dedicated specifically to peaceful sleep and dream protection. These written spells etched painstakingly into clay show just how seriously dream protection was taken. In fact, it's believed that sleep itself was thought to be a liminal state, hovering between this world and the next. The Sumerians saw themselves as especially porous at night, open to divine communication, lucky visions, and, unfortunately, the stray curse or two. This is where Sumerian night rituals outshine your average turn off your phone before bed routine. In the background, you catch a sound. It's Lull finally resigning himself to dreamland, having placed a sliver of copper by the threshold. Some said copper kept out evil spirits. Others suspected it was just a clever way to keep nosy relatives from borrowing household metalwork in the dark. On the roof above, other families murmur. You can hear the city breathe a symphony of hopes, grumbles, and the occasional midnight snack raid. There are no clocks, no reminders to check your step count, but everyone knows dawn will judge you harshly if you spend the night tossing and turning, since bad dreams were blamed on unfulfilled wishes or failure to honor the gods. Children, especially, are taught that every night's sleep is a test. If you wake up well rested and happy, you've passed. If you wake up grumpy, snarling, or convinced a snake has stolen your shoes, clearly you've slipped past the wrong spirit sometime around 2 a.m. And yes, some records seem to take shoe-stealing spirits extremely seriously. A quirky tidbit for you. Some Mesopotamian parents bribed children not to have nightmares. If you woke up crying, you might score an extra handful of figs the next morning, provided you could describe your dream. So of course, every little Sumerian suddenly had the most dramatic, fig-worthy nightmares ever documented. Today's equivalent would be kids inventing wild stories, just to wheedle an extra cookie at breakfast. Classic human behavior, timeless as ever. Despite the thick blanket of ritual and superstition, historians still argue whether the average farmer or fishmonger really believed every single aspect of the dream lore. or if it was more about keeping up with tradition. Did they genuinely think a soul critter could sneak into their dreams and rearrange tomorrow's weather forecast? Or was this more about group reassurance, a way to keep the dark manageable? You listen as the city sighs again, and the low drones of the priests at the main temple drift down the alley. A soft breeze ruffles the carefully thatched door curtain, another bit of folk magic against wandering spirits. The fire embers wink like solemn little eyes, urging you onward, deeper into dream territory. You start to feel your senses blur and shift, as if you two are being drawn across some invisible threshold between waking and dreaming, old world and new, science and superstition. Somewhere in the city, someone snores. Maybe you'll dream too, if you're lucky. Something with less public nudity than last time, and more winning at ancient board games than accidental demon summoning. Mesopotamians, it seems, aren't so different from us after all. Section 15. You're a little older now, but as you scan your real-world bedroom, the glow of your phone, maybe a pile of crumpled homework, or half-sipped cocoa nearby, you're surprised by just how familiar Mesopotamian dream logic feels. Millennia have passed since the last clay dream tablet got baked in a Sumerian kiln, but the urge to peek behind the curtain of sleep, to discover whether your dreams hold secrets or warnings, is still humming below the surface. If your pillow had ears, it might whisper, "Here we go again," every single night. Even your cat, stretched across your sheets like a small, furred lamassu, would agree that dreams never really left us. Back then, you'd have walked into the temple with your wildest story, maybe about riding storm bulls, or accidentally marrying a goat. Look, you had to be there. And the priest would squint at you, then at the sky, then at a scroll so ancient it looked like it might pass out after one more prophecy. Today, you post your weirdest dream to a midnight internet forum, where someone called Astroguru 1997 weighs in with a comment. Classic sign you're about to make money. Or lose all your socks. Historians still argue whether this modern era is less superstitious or just sneakier about it. Let's face it, if ancient King Twitter existed, dream hashtags would be trending every night. Now picture all the bits that stuck. We still assign stars, moons, and dragons to our fates, maybe not in the exact cuneiform symbols, but close enough for astrology fans. Rituals linger, too. Maybe you keep a dream journal tucked under the mattress, even if most entries just say, next to a bad drawing of your boss tap dancing. People still slip on lucky socks, or cling to a crystal that's supposed to chase nightmares away. Your phone buzzes with a horoscope app, its algorithm a distant echo of temple priests interpreting celestial sheep formations. Some threads have been rewoven. Scientists debate the meaning of REM dreams, psychologists write expensive books, and TikTok psychics promise you'll meet your soulmate on Thursday. In classrooms, you roll your eyes at the Epic of Gilgamesh, not realizing those strange monster-filled dreams stitched ancient nerves to your own. A message from the universe is just a marketing slogan now until actually see for white sheep beside the highway and wonder, just for a second, if some Sumerian god is winking at you. But some things fear of nightmares, the hope that sleep brings answers, the way morning light tugs your dreams apart, like wet clay, have never changed. That silent, curious placeholder between dreams and reality is as alive now as when you paced the shadowy lanes of yore, hunting for literal signs and wrestling mythical monsters in your sleep. You yawn, stretch, and realize you're not quite done searching for meaning in the midnight riddles of your own mind. Just like the Mesopotamians, you crave reassurance that these strange nightly visions matter, that the flicker and flow of dream stuff might light the way through another messy day in your own empire, as small or grand as it feels. The dream interpreters are gone, but the mysteries linger, teasing you toward the edge of sleep, ancient, absurd. And whether you believe in prophecy or just enjoy a good story forever your own, as the final echoes of ancient drums soften into the velvet hush of your real-life night, you slow your breathing, sensing the press of time and spooling all around you. The wild corridors of Mesopotamian memory begin to dissolve, ziggurats fade to shadows, the oil lamps gutter out one by one, and the only noises left are the gentle chorus of your fan, the easy rise and fall of your chest, and distant, drifting thoughts. That old river, the Euphrates, still murmurs somewhere deep within, its centuries of dreamers vanishing into the cool blue of forgetfulness. Let every frantic king, every night-wandering priest, gently recede into the darkness behind your eyelids. There's nothing left to chase tonight. No more monster omens, no feverish scribbling on clay before dawn. The world narrows to the curve of your pillow, and the yielding safety of your covers a softer shelter than the grandest palace ever offered. If worries tug at you, remember how each Mesopotamian morning began blank and bright, however wild the night's vision. There is always the promise of waking and the sweet, funny truth that not every prophecy comes to pass. Tonight, you are safe, your story fully your own, your dreams simply passing through untangled, undeciphered, shaped by nothing more alarming than your own gentle, resting mind. So let yourself drift. Close your eyes, quiet any impatient questions, and surrender to sleep as all dreamers have done, bathed in a hush older than time, wrapped gently in the dark, ready to meet whatever midnight visions may come, knowing they, too, will fade with the dawn. Good night. The city finally settles, and your mind tiptoes into that shimmering borderland between waking aches and the promising absurdity of dreams. You think about what might come tonight, the big, small, and downright bizarre visions that have their own place in this society. See, Mesopotamians didn't lump all dreams together like unsorted laundry. They were connoisseurs, the original dream influencers, sorting visions into categories as carefully as a scribe sorts his readied clay tablets. Some dreams blazed across your sleep like lightning, radiant and obvious in meaning. Others twisted and flickered, refusing to be pinned down except maybe by that sheet with a human face that keeps showing up. Don't ask. You never did figure out what that was about. First, the good ones are poro, the dreams that slip in on delicate wings. These glittering visions were direct lines to the gods, often arriving with such clarity that even the crankiest fishmonger could decipher them. Picture yourself in one of these. You stand on the banks of the Euphrates and golden barley swirls at your feet. A bird lifts from the reeds and calls your name in the voice of your favorite uncle. Somehow, you just know, tomorrow's market will bring good harvest, steady sales, and maybe even a day with no leaky sandals. Mainstream fact here: the famous dream book tablets, real artifacts, dedicate rows describing such fortuitous visits, detailing the expected blessings. When you wake after an aporo, you whisper thanks, maybe even leave an extra onion for a nomna at the shrine. But what about the shadowy flip side? The dreams that creep in with the oily silence of a cat on midnight patrol. These are the bad omens, nightmares that force you bolt upright, sweating buckets, convince some cosmic pranksters out for you. For ancient Mesopotamians, nightmares weren't always random. They were thought to be warnings or punishments. Dream about your house burning, or see a river turning black, and it's time to grab a charm or two. The most unnerving dreams weren't only disasters. Sometimes they blurred logic and terror, like a dream where your own hands work against you, or your shadow screams and runs away. There are tablets packed with these. The black dog in your dream means impending illness, while an eel beneath your bed could spell betrayal. No, thank you. And then, there's a third kind, the wild, the whimsical, the what is happening dreams. On the fringe, ancient dream lists even document stuff that sounds more like Mesopotamian stand-up comedy than divine mandate. The infamous talking sheep dream, for example. If a sheep bounces up and lectures you about water taxes, that may mean rainfall, or possibly just that you need a new accountant. True quirky tidbit: a scholar once translated a tablet where the dreamer is chased by a wheel of cheese, and to this day, no expert agrees on what it meant. Historians still argue whether these entries were serious, or someone's 3,000-year-old prank. Maybe it was the scribe's way to slip in a joke for future archaeologists. And if you were wondering, yes, animals showed up a lot. The boundaries of a dream weren't limited by reality at all. It could be kings riding lions, or children casually chatting with river spirits, with all participants completely fine with never explaining why. Shape-shifting was almost expected. Sometimes you're a bird, sometimes a fish with alarmingly expressive eyebrows. These dreams were embraced as signs your soul was free to visit with gods, ancestors, and definitely the occasional demon. But sometimes, dreams went meta. You dreamt that you were dreaming. This double-layer mind melt fascinated Mesopotamians. Was it a warning from your subconscious? Or had a god's messenger taken the extra step to make sure you really paid attention? Open debate continues among historians and sleep experts on whether the Mesopotamians valued these double dreams more, or simply feared getting stuck in a dream that never ended. The classification system wasn't just an idle hobby. Mesopotamians wrote their night visions down, nervously ticking boxes labeled things like auspicious, inauspicious, or requires further inspection by someone holier than me. There was a certain hierarchy. 2 dreams coming right before dawn were said to be the strongest, carrying the most weight. If you saw monsters or omens in that sliver of morning before the roosters lost their minds, everyone took notice. Of course, this meant lying about what time your dream happened was, and still is, a tempting loophole. Still awake, don't worry. Some categories were fun, too. Dreaming of eating sweet cakes or honey meant future happiness. Dreaming of losing your teeth. Well, a dentist might have said you needed to brush, but a priest would murmur something about family trouble. To this day, modern dream dictionaries owe a surprising amount to their Mesopotamian ancestors. Just swap sheep for X, and you're basically set. You roll over, mulling whether your last dream involved a monster, a talking fruit, or just the usual panic about forgetting your homework. Here in Mesopotamia, whatever form your sleep visions took, you could be sure someone priest or prankster would be ready to interpret, profit, or panic accordingly when the sun next rose over the city walls. As the night deepens, you sense there's more to dreaming here than personal curiosity or neighborly gossip. It's practically institutionalized. Your cousin whispers about the ziggurats in a chamber, where the priests and priestesses convene, surrounded by incense, ritual objects, and dreams written down for generations. Some of these interpreters, called Baru, have trained their whole lives for this high-stakes guessing game. And it's more than guesswork. These are the empire's official dream experts, a cross between celebrity therapists, politicians, and part-time weather forecasters. Their word can crown a king or doom a dynasty. No pressure. You can almost smell the mustiness of the temple's cool, shadowy halls. Flickering lamps light the walls, their glow making the painted gods dance on mud brick. Here, temple sleepovers are a privilege and ordeal, nights spent incubating dreams. People desperate for an answer, kings on the eve of battle, merchants facing financial collapse, or a farmer losing livestock present offerings, then tuck themselves under heavy blankets, hoping to tempt the gods into sending a helpful vision. But there's a risk. Sometimes the dream that comes is as cryptic as a riddle written sideways on a grocery list, and the interpreter has to puzzle it out before anyone panics. Temple dreamers occupy a weird celebrity status. On good days, they're revered, showered with gifts, and told in hushed tones, you bring the gods near. On bad days, like when dreams disappoint or spell disaster, they become easy scapegoats. If a king loses his throne because a dream was wrongly read, everyone starts looking at the dream interpreter like he accidentally fed onions to the sacred sheep. Not every dreamer survives the fallout. Quirky tidbit here. There are tales of interpreters getting banished for offensive dreams, which, knowing the Mesopotamian sense of humor, could mean anything from bad news to jokes at the expense of royal fashion. But most dream interpreters take their jobs seriously. After all, imagine you're lying on that ceremonial bed, half covered with a lion pelt, and everyone expects you to receive something world-changing. The pressure mounts, the crowd waits. You'd better hope the gods are in a generous mood. Historians still argue whether priests were expected to embellish their divine messages, to save face, or tell it straight and let chaos reign. Some temples are famous not just for normal rituals, but for hosting dream contests. Pilgrims arrive from far-off towns, each eager to outdo the other. Last night, I dreamed the city walls turned to gold. Well, I dreamed a lion danced with the moon, and it asked me for dating advice. The best dreams are entered in the temple records, transcribed on little clay tablets and stored for posterity. Some dreams, like viral memes, gain fame and circulate all over the region. Others fade away probably because the interpreter snored through the divine message and missed the punchline. It's not just royalty or the wealthy making the night's journey at the temple. Merchants, soldiers, pregnant women, and even children hope for interpretable visions. The temple accepts everyone's offerings: barley for the poor, silver rings for the wealthy, and, on special holy nights, baskets of those infamous flat cakes. No one eats unless desperate. You can imagine the high priest's grimace as he's gifted yet another stale honey loaf. May your dream be sweet, but your bread is sweeter still. Inside the ziggurat, the air is thick with anticipation. Before falling asleep, rituals must be followed: precisely bathing, wearing fresh linen, burning precious incense. Each step is meant to attract benevolent attention, or at the very least, distract any mischief-minded minor deities from sending you dreams about lice or festival disasters. Some dreamers tie tiny amulets onto their wrists, carved in the shape of sheep, fish, or stars. Everyone has a preference and a personal superstition. While you wait for sleep to take you, you hear people debating which dream interpreters are the real deal. Some have large followings. Others are known for their dramatic readings. One priest is famous for hurling onions into the fire, shouting, "Reveal, oh no." Rumor has it his dreams are a little too spicy. Open scholarly debate continues even today as to whether there were checks and balances to prevent these interpreters from simply making things up, or if their word divinely sanctioned was final by default. You close your eyes, half expecting a vision of the high priest muttering nonsense about flying donkeys. But tonight, the room is quiet, save for the occasional cough and the tick of a water clock. With the fate of everything from wars to weather patterns hanging in the balance, you wonder whether you'd want to be the one who sleeps for the city. Dream interpreters have power, prestige, and the world's worst anxiety dreams. Sometimes you imagine yourself squinting by lamplight, hunched over a clay slab, desperately trying to remember last night's bizarre adventure. Did the crocodile kiss your foot before or after the moon exploded? Welcome to the high art of dream journaling, Mesopotamian style of practice so vital that even the Royal Library of Ashurbanipal, many centuries later, gleamed with neat stacks of baked clay tablets bristling with people's sleep confessions. In your home, on mornings that feel thick and slow, your father might call for clay and a reed stylus before you can even wipe dream dust from your eyes. He's not alone. All over Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, scribes practice the delicate act of capturing dreams before they flutter away. Imagine everyone in your family has their own dream log, except instead of passwords, there's a different read for every writer, and the dog inevitably tries to chew on yesterday's omens. The official scribes are even stricter. These men and women, the ancient equivalent of an obsessive bullet journal club, write down dreams in cuneiform, the wedge-shaped script pressed deep into soft clay. If you could read a clay dream diary from 4,000 years ago, you might find, "I saw a great fish leap over the city walls, and it sang the song of my grandmother's youth." Interpretation: famine is coming, or, more to your liking, dreamt of a golden goose laying onions, possibly prosperous day ahead, must consult Baru. Mainstream fact: the Mesopotamians' passion for documenting dreams led to entire archives, with rows of tablets sorted by topic, omen type, and severity. Some libraries kept night logs, where priests and ordinary folk alike tried to record their sleep visions before breakfast called. These documents are so detailed that modern scholars read not just dreams about kings and floods, but also ordinary complaint situ-bites, onions with opinions, and, on one rare tablet, an argument with a neighbor who had the voice of thunder and the teeth of a rat. Not everyone was thrilled to jot their dreams down, of course. Imagine being the baker's apprentice, barely old enough to recognize most gods, but tasked with carefully scratching out a vision of, say, a three-eyed ball turning into a head of lettuce. Historians still argue whether this was true democratic dream sharing, or just a reflection of the temple's power after all. Private clay wasn't cheap, so maybe only the lucky or literate could fully participate. Your uncle, who accidentally melted his reed stylus during a lightning storm, only remembered his dreams when they featured cake. In some ways, these cuneiform journals turn you into an investigator, always chasing clues in the night. The clay is cool, the stylus blunt, and the details slippery as river eels. Quick was your grandmother in the dream holding a shield or a shovel. The wrong answer could mean a blunder that echoes through your family's fortunes. As dawn breaks, you, the amateur scribe, become a silent record keeper for the gods and your own peace of mind. There's a ritual to it. You rise, rinse your face, and whisper bits of your vision before the words escape. The clay feels sticky under your fingers. This act isn't just practical, it's protective. Writing down your dream pins it in place, making it easier for priests to fix a bad omen through ritual, or for parents to brag when a child dreams of a fish wearing a crown. Some even believe that recording nightmares can defang them, sort of like telling a ghost story until it sounds silly. Of course, some folks take dramatic license. In every village, there's that one neighbor who swears their dreams are longer, weirder, or more intense than yours. They barge into the temple waving a slab. I dreamed the goddess Ishtar braided my hair and said I'd marry 3 princes. Conveniently, all at once, the priests sigh, knowing someone's probably angling for a better barley allotment or a new donkey. Quirky tidbit: sometimes, dream diaries included illustrations, scratches and doodles, like a bull with 5 horns or a river with actual feet. Modern archaeologists get just as puzzled as you do about these ancient margin notes. One found a doodle of a fish atop a ziggurat, and scholars still debate if this was a prophecy or just a bored scribe waiting for breakfast. You, meanwhile, try your best. Your slab sits on a shelf by the entryway, clay edges softened from handling. Every now and then, a visiting priest flips through for something exciting. The rest of the time, it's just part of home life, another way to keep the gods in the loop, as if they're nosy neighbors peeking over the fence. In Mesopotamia, recording dreams isn't just a personal project, it's a trick to anchor what's fleeting, making your wildest nights last longer than morning's first cup of river water. Who knows, maybe tomorrow, the city's future will hinge on the strange vision you scratched in sleep, hazy lines just before dawn. Now, you nestle deeper into your scratchy but surprisingly comfy reed mat, the shouts of market vendors, and the distant splash of the Euphrates drifting away as you find yourself inside a flickering oil lamp world of epic heroes and monster-shadowed corridors. Tonight's dream has a name, Gilgamesh, a king you might have heard of, if not for his actual conquests, then definitely for the laundry list of absurd and terrifying dreams scribbled into clay by feverish scribes. So, picture this: you're the king of Uruk, already half divine and constantly worried that your dreams are trying to boss you around. You lie awake, eyes darting under closed lids as visions unspool behind your eyelids. Sometimes it's a meteor crashing down from the sky, or a wild ball that seems like it's been skipping arm day at the gym. Sometimes it's the shade of your dearest friend, Enkidu staggering into the darkness with cryptic warnings and the sort of melodrama that would fit right in on a modern soap opera. Mesopotamian legend says these dreams aren't your everyday anxieties about missing homework. Oh no. These are the stuff that guides the fate of a mighty king. In the ancient clay tablets that compose the Epic of Gilgamesh, arguably the world's oldest surviving story, dreams barge in everywhere, flexing their muscles and sending shivers down hero spines. Dream 1. A falling star slams into Gilgamesh's feet, not your average bedtime entertainment. He freaks out, naturally, and rushes to his mother, the goddess Ninsun. She pulls her best comm, all-knowing mom act, and interprets the star as Enkidu, a best friend sent by the gods. Cute, right? But immediately, you worrying, was that really what it meant? Or did mom just want you to stop bothering her while she meditated in the temple, humming goddess tunes? Historians still argue whether Mesopotamians truly believed every sign was a literal, cosmic memo, or if their interpretations were sometimes colored by politics, family feuds, or maybe just a serious lack of sleep. You soon notice a pattern. Just before every crucial plot twist dragon whacking or forest deforestation projects, the dreams arrive. Gilgamesh and Enkidu's journey is practically choreographed by their nighttime escapades. Another example, as the duo trudges toward the cedar forest to challenge the fearsome ogre Humbaba, think tree-loving Shrek with anger management problems. Dreams pop up like cosmic U2 bats. Gilgamesh dreams of mountains falling on him, of wrestling a magical ball, and of being rescued by a kindly stranger, all of which his mom, the goddess on standby, assures him are nothing to worrying about, honey. Yet, here's a quirky tidbit. Clay fragments of these dream scenes were copied and recopied over centuries like the world's slowest trending TikTok challenge. Scribes in Ashurbanipal's massive library would carefully inscribe them for their own dream-anxious kings, because if Gilgamesh can get through a nightmare, so could your average, trembling bureaucrat. Fun fact, archaeologists have unearthed bits of dream manuals, formulas for translating ominous images like a lion devouring a loaf of bread, or rivers that flow backwards. Some of these seemingly cryptic pictures appear directly in the dreams of Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Modern scholars squint at the tablets and debate if the epic itself serves as a giant, complex mapping tool for the Mesopotamian subconscious, or if the writers were just big fans of psychological cliffhangers. The drama rounds off after Enkidu. Gilgamesh's best bud meets an untimely end, death by divine punishment, probably not a recommended technique for breaking up with a friend. As grief swallows Gilgamesh, dreams morph from heroic omens to tear-soaked visions of the underworld, echoing laments and cryptic voices that would make your modern nightmares look tame by comparison. One dream has Gilgamesh spotting Enkidu in a bleak dustscape, being pecked by giant birds and eating clay for dinner. Definitely not the snack you'd want before bed. If you ever think your dreams are weird, try telling your therapist about this subterranean horror. But here's where it gets even horror, because Mesopotamian rats didn't just nibble on stored grain. They chewed through the boundaries between the worlds of the living and dead, at least in their stories. The epic dream sequences pull you straight into those fuzzy zones, places where gods tap you on the shoulder and monsters leak out of the shadows. The message is obvious: ignore your dreams at your peril. Of course, not all historians agree this was a universal belief. Some suspect the compilers of the epic simply used dreams for a dramatic punch, while others argue every single person in Uruk, yes, even the guys who carried spammy market flyers, read hidden omens into their dreams about losing teeth or having to give a speech in nothing but their loincloths. The debate rages on, fueled by new clay tablets excavated from dusty ruins and fragments pieced together by patient, perpetually coffee-fueled archaeologists. It all comes back to you, sliding into a borrowed set of sandals, ducking under lintel beams, as you shadow Gilgamesh through haunted corridors and moonlit royal gardens. Tonight, as nightmares and odd visions jostle for your attention, you might wonder if you're channeling some ancient subplot or cosmic rerun unspooling beneath the palm trees of Mesopotamia. The dream puzzles of Gilgamesh remind you that our midnight minds love a good story, and that civilizations have always looked for meaning beneath the quilt of the night. And hey, maybe tomorrow, you'll wake up with a newfound appreciation for your most embarrassing dream, because at least nobody's carving it into wet clay for you to relive over and over for 4,000 years. So here you are, shuffling into the shadowy heart of a temple at the city's edge, clutching a clay tablet like it's the Mesopotamian equivalent of a dream journal app password. The cool gloom inside thrums with whispers about dreams and their meanings, because this is where the magic of decoding takes over. Every sleepy whisper, every dream fragment, Every ridiculous detail about how your cousin's face turned into a spotted goat last night, well, it matters to the right interpreter. Along the walls, torches throw wobbly light over shelves, and niches crammed with cuneiform tablets, many thousands of them, all chronicling that endless stream of dreams. Next to them are animal livers, yes, actual livers, salted, diagrammed, and eerily well-preserved, waiting for a diviner's probing fingers. See, in Mesopotamia, the art of dream reading is barely separated from the equally oddball art of haruspicy, or reading the future from sheep's organs. If you can match dream elements to the right symbol on the right clay tablet, with the same skill as a chef seasoning stew, your fate is more or less sealed. Now, here's a fun mainstream fact. The world's oldest dream dictionaries come from this place and time. You'd probably recognize the format. One side lists the weird thing you dreamed. If a man dreams his ears fall off ... double quotes closing parenthesis. And the other side tells you what it means. Don't get too comfortable, though. These interpretations rarely mean anything good. A tooth falling out. Expect family trouble. Dream of a river flooding. Either abundance or disaster depending on the color of the goat that appeared afterward. Historians still argue whether these guides reflect deeply held beliefs or whether someone was just making things up to sell more amulets at the temple gate. What's wild is the number of jobs this field creates. There's the drowsy priest who specializes in star dreams, the busybody ant known for predicting marriage proposals thanks to her keen eye for dream snakes, and of course, the scribe who records everything, usually with far better handwriting than you could muster at 3 in the morning. All of them depend on the dusty, but surprisingly comprehensive dream atlases. Great big tablets divided into categories, like omens from left, omens from right, things with feathers, and, for the truly unlucky, dreams involving fish in hats. Okay, fine. Maybe not that last one though. After 3 cups of fermented date juice, who's checking? Let's talk procedures. You, the anxious dreamer, approach the temple with last night's vision clanging around your head, probably involving at least something weird and watery, because you're from Mesopotamia, and the rivers never let you forget it. The priest nods, mumbles a prayer to Nanch, goddess of dreams and fish, and begins to interrogate you. Which direction did you face during your dream? Were your toenails covered in flour clay? Did a monkey steal your date pastry? Or did you eat it first? Every detail counts, no matter how humiliating. After jotting it down, out comes the dream manual, an actual book of hundreds of standardized dreams. If you climb a date palm and can't get down, you'll lose your sandals, and perhaps your hopes. You watch the priest's face as he squints at the script, tracing symbols with a trembling finger. Did you mention the part about flying goats? You'd better have. Miss one clue, and your whole omen could flip from great fortune to catastrophic doom. For bonus accuracy, some priests pair dream reading with divination, looking at stars, reading lines in your palm, or consulting the unfortunate sheep liver they just cooked up for the morning ritual. The more matches between dream, organ, and sign, the more reliable the answer, though historians still argue whether anyone followed these readings when they didn't like the results. Quirky tidbit time. At least one surviving tablet offers interpretations for dreams about turning into a fish, which, you'll be delighted to know, allegedly foretells a long life. Unless, it adds, you're in Uruk, in which case it foretells a minor skin rash and an argument with your mother-in-law. Dream reading in Mesopotamia is nothing if not tailored to local anxieties and petty family politics. If you're wealthy or high-ranking, your dreams are checked once, twice, often 3 times, just in case the gods are in a sarcastic mood and decide to send mixed signals. Did you dream of a flaming chariot racing down the alleyway? The priests might break out the major calamity tablets, or maybe they'll just decide you need an extra offering. As for the ordinary folks, you take your answers, good or bad, and shuffle out, clutching a fresh clay amulet or a handful of reeds standard issue protection. Your fate is sealed, unless you dream another dream, and the cycle begins anew. Let's end with a callback. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen from earlier? Well, dream interpreters had their own skin in the game, as they muffed a major prophecy. Everybody remembered, and nobody wanted the dream reader getting it wrong before the king's next big campaign. In the city squares, you overhear whispers. Did she really dream of two-headed lions? Or is that just an excuse for why the date harvest is so bad? Today, you scroll TikTok. Back then, you clutched your clay dream tablet and prayed for an omen you could live with. Isn't it oddly comforting to know that people have always looked for patterns in the chaotic mess of their nighttime hallucinations? Even if it meant trusting a sheep's liver or your gossipy neighbor with your destiny. Tonight, your dreams are more than cryptic sketches, dancing behind your eyelids. They're full-blown messages, hotlines to everything you can't control. Your sickness, your marriage, the fate of your fig trees, and whether your mother-in-law finally stops hinting you need more goats. To a Mesopotamian, sleep isn't an escape. It's a job, a spiritual performance in which your body goes limp, but your mind's working overtime. One accidental slip, one missed omen, and someone's going to be checking the clayboard help wanted ads for a new spouse, priest, or battle commander. Now, let's slip into those moments between day and darkness, when your neighbor's donkey clatters, hooves against the paving stones, and you hear a nearby healer's chanted lullabies. Imagine, for a moment, that you're sick of real fever, the kind that wilts your firstborn's hair and makes your bones feel like they're full of wet sand. No doctor with a stethoscope is coming. Instead, your family calls for a skilled dream interpreter, usually a priest or, on especially suspicious nights, a shamanic healer who looks like he's on his third cup of barley beer. The healer settles you among cushions, powders your forehead with a little sulfur and sheep's wool, then invites you to nap or just close your eyes. He whispers, "Let the gods work the night shift." That's medical advice, Mesopotamian style. Dreams, you see, are the original telehealth. Maybe you spot Nonna the moon god handing you a cup overflowing with sweet dates, good omen. Or maybe a lizard crawls out of your mouth and dances a two-step on your chest, bad. Unless you're in the mood for existential dread. Should you dream of rain falling inside your house, the interpreter might clap his hands. That's healing on the way. Or he could murmur, "Oof, that means a neighbor is cursing you," and start hunting for goat hair amulets. Historians still argue whether these interpretations truly altered someone's health outcome, or if the belief itself gave real comfort and power, sort of a placebo effect, but with more incense and fewer co-pays. Yet cuneiform records show a clear link: disease, trouble, and dreams all swirled together in Mesopotamian medicine. Priests kept thick sets of dream cuneiforms, basically sleep prescription books. Look up if a woman dreams a raven lands on her shoulder, and boom, apply mustard seed to her feet and pray at dawn. Not FDA approved, but show me a modern dream therapist who can guarantee results. It's not just health that turns on midnight visions, either. Marriage is dream checked. To imagine unrolling your marriage contract and whispering, "Please let me see a dog sniffing a date tree tonight." If that hound shows up, maybe your future spouse is loyal. If you see scorpions, well, let's just say you keep the bridal gifts unopened for a bit longer. The point is, everyone's watching their sleep for signals, and many wouldn't say yes at the altar until both families' dreamers compared notes. Sometimes, dreams are straight-up decision makers. You're a busy farmer, and you need to know, plant barley this week or wait for more rain. You mumble to the temple dreamer, and they interpret your giant frog in the well as a sign that the irrigation gods are unhappy. Cue raucous festival, some carrot tossing, and if the dream was really big, maybe a public apology to frogs everywhere. Funny how fate turns on such slimy details. Your city's king relies even more heavily on dream prophecy. Before he sends his army out, the royal dream keepers tuck him in the temple chamber. Their job: stay up chanting while he snoozes atop 10 layers of ceremonial rugs, hoping to see a vision of winged lions or rivers flowing backward. Dreams are royal policy memos. If you see 2 towers falling, postpone your campaign. The pressure is so intense that a few kings allegedly faked their dreams. Historians still argue about whether these were state secrets or just a clever way to avoid messy wars and cranky diviners. But the dream habit isn't just top-down. In ordinary huts along the canals, families use dreams to solve personal problems, sometimes with an air of low-key competition. I dreamed you brought me figs. A wife teases her husband in the morning code for would it kill you to be nice? Or, a child dreams of a rainbow-colored ball undecidable. Frankly, even for seasoned experts, sending the mother into the market for protective amulets just in case. Let's not ignore the weird. Sometimes dreams solve riddles no waking brain could manage. Priests consult oracles, sift through dream catalogues, and piece together patterns. If you dream of eating a lion's heart, for instance, that's either an awesome protein boost or a sign to avoid public debates. One ancient clay tablet even suggests that dreaming of climbing a date palm with your left foot means you'll be promoted unless you fall, in which case, sorry, blame your dream interpreter. Some scholars call this everyday dreams folk magic, others bristle magic or not. For the Mesopotamians, it's everyday science. Your dreams are checked daily, like pulse and temperature, used to strategize farming, marriage, healing, and even which neighbor you should avoid at the communal oven. Cheeky, a bit, but practical, extremely. So tonight, roll over and listen closely to the small sounds, the cricket chorus, the evening hawker still selling garlic, and maybe a whisper of a dream you almost remember. That sliver of sleep could be your best doctor, therapist, matchmaker, or financial advisor rolled into one. Unless, of course, you dream of eating shoes again. Still no good explanation for that one. You don't need to be an insomniac to know that not every dream in ancient Mesopotamia was exactly a gift from the gods, more like occasionally. It felt like the gods were regifting nightmares they'd already used on someone else. If your sleep tonight is invaded by the seven-headed serpent you heard about from the Temple Boys, historians still argue whether that's a metaphor for river flooding or just creative horror fan fiction. You'd better pay attention. When the mind drifts into the darkness of night, the Mesopotamians believed all sorts of creepers, real and supernatural, might slither, ooze, or shriek from the cracks. You lie still, half awake, listening for any scrape or moan in the shadows, but the most you hear is your neighbor's donkey snoring louder than any demon. Even so, there's always a chance for an uninvited guest, the mighty Lamassu, bull-bodied guardian with a human's clever face, or those less helpful types, vengeful ghosts called Etimu, who, frankly, seem to earn overtime around sleepless children and people who forgot to pay the right offering at the last festival. In your dream, shadows gather beneath your sleeping mat. Maybe it's just the lamp guttering, or maybe it's the handiwork of Lamashtu, the notorious demoness who specializes in stealing sleep and sometimes biting off more than toes in restless dreams. Imagine waking to find your barley bread missing Lamashtus, known for swiping midnight snacks and turning your best goat cranky. Mainstream records official king lists, for example, don't waste much space on demonology, but the everyday clay tablets and scattered amulets tell a spooky parallel story. Nightmares mattered. Historians still debate whether monster sightings were common or just campfire tales told to pass the long, sticky Mesopotamian nights. Did people really fear the sleep demon Pazuzu? Or did they just wear those ugly wind-faced amulets because their neighbors did? The line between actual terror and trend-setting is as thin as a cicada's wing. One clay charm dug up in the ruins of ancient Nippur bears the image of a lion-headed monster holding a snake in each hand, part warning, part flex. You snuggle deeper under your scratchy woolen blanket, picturing rampaging demons and friendly Lamassu fighting it out beneath your bed. It's both reassuring and unnerving to know your family has at least 4 different household idols guarding every threshold, windowsill, and kitchen spice jar. The parents in every compound lose sleep reciting little incantations before bedtime, mumbling about binding the claws of evil with the same tone you might use if you just stepped barefoot on a scorpion again. One fringe tidbit that hasn't gone away over the centuries. Some folks believed nightmares could be contagious. If you dreamed of a red dog For instance, not just any dog, but a red one with flaming eyes. You'd better not share it at breakfast, unless you wanted everyone else to catch your bad luck. Dream secrecy wasn't just for dramatic effect. It was as important as hiding your best honey cakes from festival thieves. You try to keep your eyes closed, but curiosity scratches at your resolve. Dream guides, those clay dream manuals, are filled with weirdly specific nightmares that double as heavy-handed warnings. Dream you're swallowing live fish. That's clearly an omen. Historians can't quite agree if it's about fertility, famine, or just making really bad dinner decisions. Some dreams, though, go straight into the realm of cosmic horror, like seeing a hand float out of the river and beckon you. Is that Nomtar, the god of death, or just a fisherman's tall tale that got out of hand? Most people, especially those without the money to hire a full-time exorcist, made do with simpler protections, stringing up shells and teeth, burning odd-smelling herbs, and hoping the watchful Lamassu really did their job better than city guards on the night shift. The dream world and waking world ran side by side, wolves pacing outside both fences. Still, even the worst monsters could use a little humor. Picture some bored scribe sketching a crocodile with chicken legs in the margins of an omen tablet, or the way little brothers dared each other to step outside after midnight, past the communal latrine, where the donkey-headed howler supposedly lived. Sure, some fevers, like today's nightmares, came on after suspicious snacks, and not everyone blamed demons. Sometimes the family cook got her share of the blame too. One mainstream fact you can't escape, even through the most absurd dream logic. Records from cities like Kish and Lagash show that dream interpreters were frequently called to explain these night terrors, mud-caked tablets in hand. Their solemn expressions probably disguised how bored they were with describing yet another dream about being chased by gigantic onions. Yes, really, layered through it all is the unmistakable weight of anxiety. You clutch your amulet a bit tighter, mumble a half-remembered line from a protective song, and remind yourself that even the crankiest ghosts feared a household that knew its rituals. If all else fails, your grandmother claims, leave out some stale flatbread. It's not just for hungry monsters, it's the ancient Mesopotamian way to bribe anything with teeth and claws to bother the neighbors instead. If you drift back to sleep, skipping over the noisy party of demons outside your dream window, maybe you'll glimpse the Lamassu, stone wings wrapped around your sleepy shadow. Or maybe you'll wake to find you've been talking in your sleep again, hopefully nothing about the sheep that never stops complaining. Sweet dreams, and remember, if something tries to nip at your toes tonight, blame it on Mesopotamian monsters, not your snoring uncle. You burrow deeper into your scratchy reed mat, listening as the city hushes, settling under the distant stars. Even the goats and frogs have ended their noisy showdown for tonight, replaced by the softer chorus of people snoring in rooms divided by reed screens. In this moment, drifting half awake, you remember that Mesopotamian dreams weren't just reserved for kings with elaborate beards or priests hunched over smoky altars. No, everyone got a ticket to the nightly spectacle, from the tiniest child to the most fed-up mother working double time. Clay tablets may be filled with royal exploits and divine prophecies, but under the same patchwork sky, women and children chased their own strange visions and nightmares. Imagine you're a young mother, arms sore from grinding barley all day, finally slipping into sleep beside your swaddled baby. Your dreams are rarely of battles or burning towers. Instead, maybe you're running through a field of rye, your child morphing between a sheep and a fish. Good luck decoding that one. Or perhaps the goddess Gula, patroness of healing, appears with a jar of honey and a wild dog nipping at her heels, whispering advice about cures for fevers and how to keep the rats away. Quirky as it sounds, some fragments from clay tablets really do suggest household dreams involve missing goats, tangled threads, and the never-ending fear of evil spirits stealing snacks right off your windowsill. Mainstream historical fact: scholars translating dream records from cities like Nineveh and Nipper often find references to women's concerns. Ancient dream manuals catalogue entries like if a woman dreams her loom is broken, trouble will visit her house, or if milk overflows in a dream, fortune will come to the family. It's far from the male victory march you'd expect. Archaeologists propose that while the stylized sagas about warrior kings made the headlines, or the mud brick walls, the daily dream life was thick with household symbols. But historians still argue whether these everyday dream snippets belong to real individuals or were just stock examples for nervous scribes practicing their cuneiform. It's possible that most personal dreams, especially from women and kids, never made it past gossip over breakfast or a quiet chat with a temple priestess. Maybe history's true bedtime stories are still buried, never pressed into clay. Or maybe the old city's hum was already encoded with people's hopes and anxieties, soaking right into the bricks, whether they were written down or not. Now picture yourself as a kid, wriggling under a goat hair blanket, parents shushing you to sleep. Maybe you dream of riding a river turtle the size of a donkey, or of sneaking figs from the market, while the royal guards chase after you on stilts. Mesopotamian kids had wild imaginations, proven by odd little clay toys discovered in ancient ruins. Some childhood dreams became tiny, sacred rituals. A mother might fasten a blue-glazed amulet, shaped like a fish or a coiled snake, around her child's neck to chase away bad night spirits, hoping it would work better than last week's burnt onions left by the door. Remember those questionable breath-freshening customs? Not every home was a temple, but plenty had a shelf piled with pebbles, feathers, and even bones, talismans against a bad dream or an unexpected fever. And even sleepy children learn to watch for signs. If you dream of running and your feet don't touch the ground, is that a good omen, a warning, or just the result of sneaking a bit too much honeyed bread? There were no solo dreamers, really. Everybody worried about what they might bring back from the night. Of course, reality check. Mesopotamia wasn't exactly known for its progressive policies toward women and children. Social roles were carved out like cuneiform on a brick. Yet fragmentary records reveal that, for all the strictness of daily life, dreams were a semi-secret domain where power lines blurred. A servant girl with a particularly vivid vision might be summoned to tell her story before a cautious, candlelit gathering. You can almost feel the excitement of flickering lamp, the smell of oil, the hush as everyone waits to hear about a dream dove building a nest on the city gate. Sometimes, a well-timed dream, even from the youngest citizen, could be interpreted as a blessing or, let's be honest, a very convenient excuse for skipping chores the next day. One quirky tidbit. Have you ever heard of dream dolls? Tiny clay or wax figurines, tucked into household altars, were sometimes given offerings at night by mothers worried about a child's nightmares. Offer a little bread, whisper a charm. If the doll could catch a bad dream before it reached your pillow, all the better. Some even wore miniature jewelry. A whole generation of ancient dream catchers who didn't mind sticky fingers, and, naturally, historians still debate whether these rituals and household cults were genuinely widespread or just trendy in certain neighborhoods. Private, unwritten rituals rarely leave direct evidence, so we're left piecing together stories from what's hidden between official lines. But as you fade into this hushed world, you sense that Mesopotamian dreams, the secret wishes, the night terrors, the soft footsteps of siblings snuggling together were shared experiences, cropping up everywhere from cloud-topped ziggurats to the lowest huts outside city walls. There's comfort in that thought. Maybe tonight, whether your dream shows you kings or cats, you're part of an ancient tradition older than any written word, a quiet world behind everyone's eyelids, waiting for dawn. Rough stone streets sprawl before you as the celebratory clamor leads you to the heart of an ancient city. The night's alive with the promise that, maybe tonight, through some sacred Mesopotamian ritual, the gods will finally send you that dream been hoping for. Mesopotamia is extra when it comes to sleepovers. Forget pillow forts, these folks build entire festivals around coaxing dreams from stubborn deities. It's market day and festival night rolled into one, scented with burnt cedar, sticky dates, and something you hope isn't boiled sheep tongue. Spoiler. It totally is. Mothers swaddle children beneath garlands of papyrus. Teenagers hustle around with bundles of fresh reeds, and older folks compare crow's foot wrinkles, prophesy lines. They say, with a wink, you join the flow of humanity, barely contained by the high walls of the ziggurat. That grand step pyramid towering over the city, like the most intense 5-tiered bunk bed in the world. Tonight, no one is home early. The rich roll out offerings and scents, honey cakes, little statuettes with eyes wide from a lifetime of bedtime rumors. Even the poorest squeeze together, fashioning small clay tokens for the altar. It's not about what you bring. It's that you show up, wrist deep in tradition, for a little piece of divine attention. Because tonight, it's Dream Incubation Festival. Think, bring dash your dash own dash bedroll. Share dash your dash, wildest dash dreams. Hope you don't snore through a celestial visit. All around you, pockets of families settle on freshly swept temple courtyards. The air thrums with chants both solemn and silly. A priestess, face painted with moon-shaped dots, sprays rosewater over each sleeper, and you wonder whether it's holy, or just mosquitoes' worst nightmare. Here's the mainstream historical fact for your sleepy self. Archaeological finds confirm several Mesopotamian temples were built with dream chambers as small, private rooms intended for ritual sleep during certain festivals. Out front, inscriptions whisper of dreams delivered on sacred nights, promising healing, or even foretelling invasions and the royal tax hikes that followed. Not just a sleepover. Tonight, you might walk out a prophet, or at least with a story juicier than last week's town gossip. But no two festivals are the same. In Nipper, the annual spring feast kicks off with wrestlers, flute girls, and a parade of fattened goats. Dreamers gather after sunset, ritually cleansed in a splashy pond. Supposedly, sleeping damp helps messages slide in from the spirit realm. You're not so sure. You mostly feel soggy. By midnight, priests light torches and hum hymns to Nonna, the moon god, whose silvery face is said to peer, mildly annoyed, into dreamers' open minds. You roll into your mat, careful to face Northroom acclaim's southern-facing dreamers wake up with clichés and foot cramps. The quirky tidbit: some records suggest priests strategically doled out the best beds to influential guests, local rulers, big spenders, or even people with reputations for dreaming weird. After all, if the mayor claims to have seen Enlil, the storm god, handing him a new fishing license, you want him comfy. Meanwhile, the rest of you nudge next to the cattle pen, serenaded by snorting oxen. Nothing says divine prophecy, a chorus of farm smells. Historians still debate whether normal citizens ever truly expected anything world-shaking from these festivals, or if most just came for the food, fresh gossip, or the ancient equivalent of a break from doom scrolling. Maybe you really hope for a message from on high, or maybe you just like dancing out the latest sheep shuffle under the torches. Tonight, you join in the most mysterious ritual, dream incubation. Priests instruct everyone to recite their questions as they settle on their mats. In a crackling whisper, you probe the unknown. Will you ever fix that leaky roof? Is your rival actually poisoning your lentil stew? Is the baker's apprentice flirting, or just really clumsy? You doze, crossing your fingers for a dreamful reply, and half suspect the gods outsource some work to that nosy neighbor who always sees things. Midnight brings a wave of hush. One by one, people stretch and yawn, settling in nervous silence. The silence only breaks for snorers and the occasional startled cry, "I dreamt the fish market exploded," gets a round of giggles and whirring from fishmongers. All the while, torch shadows flicker, painting wild, stretched shapes onto the walls. Could that be a lion, or just Aunt Nobatu's hair again? In the smallest hours, a priestess circles, murmuring blessings and popping warm date cakes into open hands. The sticky sweetness promises everyone a pure heart, or at least less stomach growling for the gods to overhear. You turn on your side. Supposedly, the closer you sleep to the altar, the wilder your dream. Pro tip: don't challenge the high priest's favorite camel for that spot. Crows call at dawn, and the spell gently phrase. Dazed, Hopeful dreamers blink awake and trade stories before even brushing their teeth. Did you see the ball that turned into a river? The three-headed reed seller, the moon, grinning with 7 teeth. Everyone wants to know if your dreams bore a message, so you hastily embellish the talking pineapple, knowing full well pineapples won't hit the region for another 3,000 years. Some dreams make it onto clay tablets, others just fuel breakfast gossip, and a rare few heavy with meaning send priests running to advise the city's lords, or at least trouble the baker. You dust off the crumbs, stretch, and realize sleep in Mesopotamia was as much a public performance as private mystery, a riotous blend of ritual, hope, and the world expectation that you might roll over and change the world. You wake with a jerk, heart drumming a wild beat behind your ribs, the greasy sweep of a nightmare still clinging to your skin like swamp mud. Maybe there were too many snakes, or an eagle with your uncle's face screaming something about taxes. You try to shake it off, but the whirring hunkers down deep. Bad dreams aren't just bad luck here, they're warning labels from the universe. If you saw yourself getting swept away by a river, or swarmed by silent fishermen in the dark, everyone knows it's time to be a little concerned. Now comes the frantic part, the dream fixers. That's what you need, someone to unravel the doom-scented spaghetti you just lived through. In ancient Mesopotamia, a nightmare is never just your private problem. Families jump into action. Your mother babbles nervously about forgetting to sprinkle dried mint leaves above the threshold. Was it last night's lentil stew harboring a doom spirit? Or did she mangle the anti-evil lullaby again? Your little brother, the hopeless prankster, suggests maybe the spirit really likes your haircut and wants to borrow it. You glare. In all seriousness, bad dreams are treated like wildfires. If you're lucky enough to have connections, you sprint, or more likely, sheepishly drag yourself to the nearest dream expert. Sometimes that means a priest up at the ziggurat, and sometimes it's the toothless old woman 2 streets over who claims her pet goat channels none other moon god. Both charge steeply, in their own way. Mainstream fact, there were actually professional exorcists and dream specialists called Shipu and Baru. Their entire career was untying the knots of nightmares for worried kings, city governors, even hapless shepherds who just dreamed about getting nibbled by stone statues. The big shots got speedy appointments, you and your neighbors. You wait your turn, clutching chickpea offerings in sweaty hands, hoping the demon backlog isn't so ferocious this month. The process has a wild, methodical flavor. Carrying your disastrous dream like a poisoned date cake, you recite every odd moment. And then I was on the roof, only my feet were dragonflies, and my father had turned into a bread oven. It's odd business, pouring your weirdest fears into the professional ears of someone who smells distinctly of garlic and burnt juniper. The dream fixer listens, sometimes with a sage nod, sometimes rolling their eyes. Mesopotamians are imaginative. After all, the next bit has a little flair. Out come the ritual objects. Clay tablets stamped with nervy cuneiform, jars full of murky river water, odd pebbles that according to legend were spat out by the moon. The Shipu might wave a bronze dagger, sing a guttural hymn, or force you to eat a truly questionable pastry for the gods, obviously. There are gestures, strange charades meant to chase out the dream demon, and more than a few scoldings if they think your hygiene isn't up to cosmic standards. Historians still argue whether these ceremonies really soothed the mind or just distracted people until they forgot about their bad dreams altogether. Some say it's prototherapy. Others insist it's closer to an ancient version of turn your pillow over and hope for the best. Certainly, Mesopotamian cuneiform spells survive that are just long, angry rants directed at nightmares, part stand-up comedy, part magical roast. There's a menu of countermeasures if you want a DIY, on the fringe. Mesopotamians sometimes buried strands of cursed hair under the doorstep of an enemy. If your neighbor's new goat starts acting weird after a week, maybe you know why. Chewing licorice root while reciting a backwards version of your dream was believed to make it slip away into the shadow world. Some folks took things further. One text suggests writing your nightmare on a clay pot and smashing it at sunrise, which sounds pretty satisfying even in modern times. But what if your nightmare is a royal caliber disaster? Kings have a hotline, a full lineup of Baru priests who gather at sunrise, holding their dream books and arguing over which god accidentally pressed send on the wrong vision. Public safety can literally depend on these interpretations. If the king sees the city's walls melting, you might find yourself joining an all-night festival of frantic appeasement rituals, tossing extra sheep into the fire and reciting every hymn in the book. Sometimes, the fix requires everyone fasting for a day, or the oldest woman in your neighborhood wearing her least flattering toga and dancing a ritual shoo-shoo around the ziggurat. Not all remedies were solemn. One quirky tidbit: children sometimes drew funny faces on bits of clay and left them near their pillows. The idea: the demon would get distracted and start arguing with its own caricature instead of haunting your dreams. Laughter, in its own way, was a useful charm. Still, not every nightmare could be solved at home. Occasionally, you just needed a professional declaration. The omens are cleared. Eat your bread, go back to bed, and please don't scare the house spirit with any more garden gnome impersonations. If the rituals failed, well, there was always next week's festival. Or you just get used to double-checking your sandals for snakes in the morning. Of course, no matter how elaborate the fix, people whispered, maybe the gods didn't notice your nightmare at all. And maybe the fixes were just, well, for you, not for them. Humans need hope, after all. That's something the ancients obsessed with, the power of sleep, but just as terrified of it, as we are, understood perfectly. You're never really alone at bedtime in Mesopotamia. Not with the flicker of oil lamps, or the chirping of crickets, which, between you and me, sound like tiny nightmare harbingers, and certainly not with the boisterous world of everyday magic swirling in the air. Everyone around you trusts, at least a little, in small, talismanic shields against the unknown. And as your eyelids droop, you realize the night routine is about much more than just snuggling down and hoping the shadows keep their distance. Dream magic here isn't just for kings or high temple folk. Every regular mud brick dweller has tricks up their woven sleeves. Before you let yourself fully drift, let's make sure you're equipped. First up, amulets may be a scrap of lapis lazuli strung with a strip of faded goat hide, meant to keep nightmares at bay. Mainstream fact: archaeologists really do dig up these little gems all the time, sometimes carved with images of protective spirits like the Lamassu, other times just etched with much humbler prayers. Let my dreams be sweet and my enemies confounded. The amulet at your neck is cool and weirdly reassuring, and you wonder how many other people are clutching theirs right now, too. Now for your bedtime snack, because if you really want to bend your dreams to your will, it turns out you can eat your way to better visions. The locals nibble on dates or dream cakes, a fringe tidbit for you. These treats aren't just snacks. They're mixed with honey, figs, and maybe, suspiciously, an herb the priests say will open your dream channels. Historians still argue whether these ancient night snacks actually did anything mystical, or if they just provided a sugar rush before REM sleep. You pop one in your mouth, feeling pretty advanced for someone with a sand flea problem. The sweet, sticky flavor lingers as you lie back, trying not to think of how many hands touched that date before yours. But you ask, what if luck alone isn't enough to ward off a truly twisted nightmare? Bring on the incantations, those half-whispered, half-sung spells muttered as you mop the mosquito from your brow. Seriously, why do they even exist? Most families pass down their favorite night prayers, and some are truly odd. Oh winged ball, trample the fear. Oh starlight, trap the thief lurking in dream. You hear your neighbor murmuring hers, and for a moment, the whole city seems to hum with accidental poetry. Here's the twist: while some dream spells are elaborate, calling on 7 gods and the ghost of a grandmother, ordinary Mesopotamians believe that even a perfectly timed word can tip the scales. Want more love or less war in your night visions? Try reciting a charm about rivers flowing upward or apples falling into jars. Everything in this world is a metaphor if you squint hard enough. And for protection, you might grip your amulet and repeat the refrain, "May Nonna shield my sleep and Shamash scatter the darkness." Of course, not every spell works as planned. Sometimes, a mispronounced word means you accidentally pray for sheep to invade your neighbor's dream. Mesopotamian humor at its finest. For a bit of daily magic, literally daily, there are records. People tuck small wax figurines under their pillows or burn cedar chips in little clay lamps. Some families even leave out a bowl of barley porridge as a peace offering to the household spirits in charge of dreams, because nothing says, "Please don't haunt me," like carbs. Modern scholars love to debate whether these rituals worked because of magical efficacy, just the calming, grounding effect of having a night routine. Honestly, if a bedtime snack makes you sleep better, does it really matter? Now, there's a group in town known for taking dream hacking to Olympian heights, the sleep priests. These pros aren't above a little at-home magic themselves, but their pride is in specialized stone amulets, usually inscribed with inches of tiny cuneiform. Some stones are shaped like pillows, adorable, supposedly enhancing pleasant visions if placed beneath your mat. And yes, they're the ancient equivalent of that sleep tracking app that claims to unlock lucid dreaming. Quirky tidbit: one famous temple record describes a priest dreaming about a fish with human fingers. All thanks to a new amulet. Historians still argue if this was a warning against picking up weird rocks, or just a side effect of the priest's suspect barley snacks. Everyday magic isn't only about defense, though. Sometimes the right charm is used to request a vision from a god, maybe a sign about next year's harvest, or a sneak peek at your future in-laws' personalities. Of course, the risk of seeing your future mother-in-law transform into a vulture is, well, just another reason to brush up on your incantations. To wrap up your Mesopotamian night, you do what everyone does: lay out on every little ritual. Remember, amulet around the neck, dream stone beneath the mat, a whispered charm rolling off your tongue, and perhaps even leaving a fruit at your windowsill for wandering kindly spirits. There's comfort in the routine, even if you harbor a healthy skepticism about whether the Lamassu statue by the door actually scares off anything more than wayward chickens. Still, as you start to fade, you feel that pleasant, homey certainty that, whatever comes, your ancestors have tried it all before. One last joke: if you do happen to see a dream about getting chased by a gossiping donkey, just blame it on the snack. The neighbors do. You wake before dawn, eyes raw from dreams that won't quite fade, and the bruised lilac sky finds you facing an unlikely crowd. Two priests, a merchant on the verge of tears, your mother's friend who swears she dreamt of 3 geese in a basket, and, unfortunately, a minor judge with a frown that could dry out an entire barley field. This is no cozy story hour. In the world of Mesopotamian justice, sometimes a single dream can tilt the scales, and you're about to see how quickly things get serious. In the tangled bureaucracy of the city-state, trials don't just rely on eyewitnesses, clever arguments, or who can bribe the scribe with the biggest goat. Every so often, the anxious chatter in the courtroom goes silent as someone stands and claims, "I had a dream." Suddenly, all eyes sniff for the faintest whiff of divine intervention. Maybe it's the accused, desperate to prove his innocence by recalling a night image where a glowing god offered a flower. Or maybe it's a witness whose nightmare about a flooding marketplace throws suspicion the other way. You'd think this would devolve into chaos. Sometimes, it absolutely does. Here's the mainstream historical fact you can count on. There are cuneiform trial records, some so old, you can practically hear the reed stylus scraping where dreams are offered as valid testimony. In some periods, the boundary between waking speech and dream vision was so blurry that clever advocates learned to discover a strategic nightmare the night before their big case. After all, if Inanna weighs in on your property dispute, who's going to argue with the goddess? Of course, this didn't make life for the judges any easier. Picture yourself in a magistrate's sandals, shuffling through the clay tablets as each side produces ever stranger dreams. On a slow day, you might hear a neighbor's story of a vision featuring a goat with two heads, leading to an argument about whose pasture is cursed. On a bad day, you have 50 priests testifying about omens, each reference more tangled than the next. Sometimes the judge just sighs and calls for more incense, hoping the smoke will mask his confusion. Historians still argue whether those judges believe these visions or just played along to keep the peace. This dreamlit legal drama spanned both big and small cases. Theft, land boundaries, merchant contracts, even accusations of plotting against the king could turn on a well-timed dream. In truth, anybody could claim a nightmare inspired their confession. Your neighbor confesses to stealing a loaf of bread, not because he's hungry or caught, but because he saw Nonna in a dream shaking his finger strict, but arguably less scary than the local guard. Sometimes, dreams even shaped royal decisions after the trial. There are records of acquitted men suddenly hauled back to court weeks later, thanks to a priest's vision of guilt, whispered by Enki himself. "It came to me at midnight," the priest proclaims. You'll never look at midnight snacks the same way again. Among the more bizarre cases, the infamous fishmonger of Nipper, whose neighbor dreamt about a fish with a human voice accusing the monger of shorting him on scales. 2 days of drawn-out argument costing a king's ransom in wasted onions were resolved when the priestess drowsily confirmed that, yes, dreams about talking animals always pointed to commerce gone wrong. Case closed. Fishmonger's reputation left swimming in circles. Even the law itself absorbed the poetry of dream logic. In the law codes, think Hammurabi, lover of heavy punishments. There are occasional lines referencing omens and visions, sometimes as tea-breakers in ambiguous disputes. If all else failed, you might even be ordered to fast or sleep in the temple, hoping for a miracle dream to set things straight. Historians still argue if this was desperation or strict legal process with sleepy style. On the fringes, things get even weirder. Quirky tidbit. At least one text suggests certain dream interpreters could be rented at the market to stand as witnesses, swearing with a straight face that your night visions meant good luck or innocence. It pays to have friends, and it also pays to have one who's been part-time napping in the temple ziggurat since last spring. Of course, the system wasn't flawless. Plenty found ways to manipulate it. Corrupt interpreters might invent favorable dreams for the right sum, and families rehearsed shared nightly visions, just in case the law came knocking at their door. If this sounds familiar, like that time your cousin swore he heard mom say yes to midnight snacks, you're not far off. Yet, few could argue with dreams powerful enough to sway the court. To refuse a God-sent vision was to risk angering both the accused's family and the cosmic order. So judges and scribes learn the delicate art of pageantry, bowing gravely, humming prayers, stalling for more dreams, anything to avoid flat conflicts or executions unless absolutely necessary. Appeals to higher divine courts sometimes followed, where entire communities rallied around a vision or waited for an official priestly statement to drop like the world's first viral tweet. And yes, every so often, the system let someone off the hook by deciding a dream meant nothing. You can almost imagine the courthouse sigh of relief, like when someone finally admits they dreamt about goats simply because they ate too much cheese. Through all this, the courtroom pulsed with the wild hope and sneaky dread that, maybe, the gods truly cared what happened to the smallest land dispute or the most tedious merchant squabble. Or at least that the dream interpreters did if you could pay them, and if they hadn't already nodded off mid-testimony.